All right, so stuff for Science 10 in particular for you guys AP, but for Science 10 in general as well. Okay, obviously you're going to hear this every class that you go to today. Okay, attendance is the most important thing. If you are not here, there's very little we can do for you. Okay, so much of what goes on in all of high school courses involves being physically in the classroom at that time. Not everything that we do can be replicated. All right, so a lot of that stuff it's just different. If we're having a class discussion and you're watching the recording of this on YouTube, all you hear are my answers. Okay, you don't hear the questions necessarily unless I remember to actually repeat them. Okay, things like that. It's really, really important that you are here. Okay, I think they'll show you in your assembly here this afternoon. Your guys' assembly is period 4. Okay, they'll show you the stats on it, and it's something like if you have attendance that is below like 75%, okay, your chances of failure of a class are like skyrocketed to like virtually you will. Okay, so it's really, really important that you are here. All right, you do need to be aware that you are responsible for any material that you miss, including labs, assignments, projects, the notes, okay, etc. That's actually going to be fairly straightforward and easier for you in my class. If you're absent, you go to YouTube and you watch the podcast of what we did that day. Okay, it's almost like being here, except you don't have to look at my ugly mug all day. Okay. Second thing with notes, you're gonna I will show you where you can get the notes package, okay, for Science 10. Okay, it'll be your responsibility to either print that or put it on your phone or your iPad or your laptop or whatever. Okay, I simply don't print them anymore. Reason for that, I calculated exactly how much paper I used / trees I slaughtered, okay, in printing out notes for everybody, and then said, why am I doing that? In this day and age, you know, everyone can look at that stuff electronically, so I don't do it anymore. If you really want, you know, a pen and paper, that's fine. Some people really like that. You'll have to print it yourself, okay? And it's not like you're printing like a volume. You know, I think the notes package is 60 pages, and that's the whole course. All right, so it's not a huge document. All right, I would suggest though that you do not print the notes package in color. Okay, I had like a bunch of angry people last year emailing me in like the second day saying, "Oh, you know, it cost me $70 because I, you know, used up all the color ink in my printer." Don't use color, okay? Print them in black and white because you'll be able to see all the color versions of all my notes electronically, okay? On your computer at home or your phone or your iPad or your tablet or whatever you're using, okay? So I wouldn't print them in color. Save yourself a ton of money, okay? Yeah, so you're going to use podcasts, and we also use Google Classroom. Did anyone use that in junior high? Google Classroom? Okay, so a few of you know how to do that. That's good because Google Classroom rocks. Okay, it's like the greatest thing since they learned how to slice bread. All right, so it's really good. So you got to use all of that stuff and my website, which I'll show you. Okay, to stay up to date if you are missing. Okay. Second thing has to do still with attendance, obviously, and that is lates. Okay. In this school, you are considered late if the bell has gone and you are not in the classroom. All right. In fact, other than today, you will find the door in the closed position after the bell has gone. All right, so if you are arriving at my classroom and the door is closed, you must wait outside. All right, because I don't want you interrupting the beginning of class, which is, you know, when you introduce everything and stuff gets going. The last thing I need is everybody's attention over on you at the door, okay, knocking or doing whatever. I'll see you through the window and I'll come and get you when it's convenient for me. Okay, and so just wait out there. Now, if you've been waiting out there for like 15 minutes, I didn't see you, or I'm really angry. Probably just didn't see you, okay? And then you can knock, okay, and I'll come and get you. All right, so make sure that you're here, obviously, on time, okay? Class begins, period 1, 8:45, okay? So you should be here 8:44 or earlier, please, okay? If you are consistently late, okay, the administration does do late monitoring, and then you end up on their, like, most wanted list, and it's not because they really want you, it's just, yeah, you don't want to be there. Okay, so make sure you're here on time. Okay, section 2, okay, website, Google Classroom, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so the first thing is the website, okay, as well as Google Classroom, available to assist you and your parents with review and due dates. Okay, the website looks like this. All right, so if you go here, And how many people have their phone here right now? Okay, or you have your laptop here. Okay, take it out right now. Type in that URL right now, okay, and go there and bookmark it because you're going to use it all the time, okay? And by the way, you're probably also going to use your phone in my class a lot, okay? I'm of the very different mindset than most teachers. I think a phone is a tool, and thus it should be used responsibly, of course. Okay? If you are not using it responsibly, I can usually tell. The responsible use of a cell phone looks different than irresponsible use of a cell phone, and it's very easy to tell the two apart. Okay? So on the website, you can find various things. Obviously, over here on the left is where Science 10 stuff can be found. Okay, I'll show you what's in there in just a minute. Okay, in the center, there's a link to Google Classroom, which we won't use today. Okay, there's a calendar of due dates and such. So if there's ever something due, it'll not only be on Google Classroom, but it'll also be here. Okay, and there's a link to the YouTube page where all of my podcasts are as well. Okay, so basically it's like, you know, one-stop shopping, okay, for everything you need for Science 10. Okay, the other place where due dates will be obviously up here on the board. Okay, you guys are the top box. Okay, so it'll be, there's really no excuse to not know when things are due, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, there's 3 places where you can find that stuff. Okay, a little bit further down here on the page. Come on. Okay, is my email address. So if you need to get a hold of me, okay, regarding something, you can do that. Let's just be respectful of each other's, you know, like time and space and things like that. You know, if you're really struggling with something and, you know, you have a question, you can email me, okay? Just understand that if you're doing that at like 11 o'clock at night, you're probably not going to get an answer. Okay, just again, kind of being respectful of each other's time and space. Okay, but I do try to answer most of the emails that come through. Okay, just sometimes, you know, I don't get to them. If I'm at home and something's going on, you know, or I'm coaching a basketball game or I'm at a track meet, I'm probably not going to answer, okay, your emails at those points. But I do my best to answer them if you have questions. Okay, questions on any of that? All right. So the Science 10 stuff, if you click on that, it takes you to this page here, and there's folders down at the bottom. Again, there's another link to the YouTube channel where the podcast will be. Okay, and then down here is where all of the important documents, okay, for Science 10 will be located. So there's a document here about completing and submitting assignments for Mr. Coder, okay, that basically tells you how to use Google Classroom, which we'll go over on Wednesday. Okay, periodic table. The package that you just got, okay, the course syllabus is here as well. Okay, got the final exam review. You're not going to need that for a few months. Okay, the notes package, that you're going to need. Okay, in fact, you're going to want to have that basically tomorrow. All right, so tonight, go home, print at least the chemistry unit. Okay, you don't necessarily need to print all 60 pages tonight, okay, but print at least the chemistry unit so you've got a few days, okay. And the reason I want you to have that, not necessarily, again, you don't necessarily have to print that. If you usually bring a laptop to class, great, just use them electronically. If you have a tablet that you're comfortable bringing to class, have them on the tablet, okay. Last year I had quite a few people who were actually taking notes right on the notes package file on their tablets. Okay, at least for iPads, you can get an app called Notability. I think it costs about $3.99. But you can actually, it takes the PDF and makes it editable, and you can write right on it. So you can put your jot notes and everything right on the notes package. Okay, some people like to do that. Some people like to have the tablet there and they're writing on paper, whichever works for you. Okay, but if you want to save some trees, it's not a bad idea, okay, to have the electronic version. I am not saying go home to your mom and dad and say, Mr. Coder said I have to have a laptop or I have to have an iPad, because I did not say that. Okay, you can still print them and do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, that will work. But if you do have one and you're comfortable with having it here, it works too. Okay, on your phone, yes, in a pinch, you can look at the notes package on your phone, but probably by the end of the class you'll be cross-eyed because it'll be really small. Okay, or you'll have a hand cramp from, you know, swiping and scrolling and whatever, okay, because, you know, it's bigger. All right, but definitely have that in some form for tomorrow. Okay, the other folders, lab data. So if we do a lab, okay, and you're not here, or you get home, you're doing the report, and you realize your lab data is no good, okay, you did something wrong or something didn't work, okay, you can always go into that folder, and there's lab data for all the labs that we do, okay, in this course, okay, that is correct, okay, and will work. So if you ever have a suspicion your data is not right, go here. And then there's the chemistry unit notes, okay. Your notes package will be good enough, but if you want exactly the slides that I have up on the board, this is where you can find them. Okay, so these notes are by lesson. The files are much bigger. Okay, they're basically just the PowerPoint slides that I would use on the smartboard. So if you like that, and you want to just look at those, again, don't print these. Okay, because if you think 60 pages is a lot for that full course notes package, you'd have 60 pages after probably 10 lessons, okay? So you probably don't want to do it that way. All right. Some of the stuff that is in here that you might want, there's worksheets in here, although I usually give those to you. I'll print them out and give you the worksheets myself. The lab sheets are in here, although you're probably not going to need those either. I'll either print them for you, or they'll be in Google Classroom for you, and you won't need to print them. But if you ever find you need something, okay, it's in here. All right, you don't need to come to me and go, Mr. Coder, I lost this thing. It's always in here. Okay, there's absolutely nothing that I would give you in class that isn't in here somewhere. All right, everybody good with that? Okay, and like I said, there's a folder for each unit in there, but like I said, I wouldn't bother printing those unless you've lost something and you need a replacement copy, okay, because I don't make extras. Okay, if I photocopy something, I make one for everybody, and that's it. Okay, so make sure you hang on to your stuff. And then there's another folder here, useful stuff for parents, and it's basically an information letter and podcast letter, basically just stuff that tells them the things I'm going to show you today. Okay, questions on the website? All right. The other thing, the podcasts. So on YouTube, okay, I've got a YouTube channel that looks like this, and on there you will find that there's a playlist for each unit. All right. Right now I've left lessons in these folders just because so they would show up, because if there's nothing in them they don't show up. Okay. But if there is one playlist for each unit, if you're ever absent, okay, then you want to make sure that you are going here, okay, to get the lesson that you missed. Okay. The other thing that the podcasts are great for is if we've done a lab in class and you're putting the lab report together. Okay. Sometimes, you know, I have to go kind of fast when I'm given the instructions for a lab or an assignment in class, and you know, you're working on it, you're like, I don't remember how to do this part. Go to that podcast. You don't have to watch the whole thing. You guys know how YouTube works. Just scrub through it until you're about to the spot where I would have said that, okay? And then listen to it again, okay? If you ask anybody who took my classes before, okay, they'll tell you that when you're doing a lab report, you should have the podcast on in the background while you're doing it, okay? It's like the easiest way to get a good mark on a lab report or an assignment that you can possibly do, because I have a tendency to give stuff away, okay, in the podcast, and if you're listening to it, you'll get it. Okay, everybody with me there? So they're a really, really useful tool, not just if you're absent, okay, but they're great for review. You know, if you want to go over something before a quiz, or you want to go over something before a unit exam, you know, again, you don't have to watch them in their entirety, just watch the parts you need. Okay, so they're really, really good that way. Make use of them. All right, so yeah, that's generally where you'll go. If, and hopefully this is not the case for anybody, you're like taking a vacation for 3 weeks in the middle of the semester, please don't do that. Okay, and you need to look ahead, or you want to look ahead. Okay, I have all the old lessons archived in here. Okay, I mean, so you could, you know, if we're on lesson 5 and you're going to be leaving in 2 weeks, you might want to look at like lesson 15, okay, or something like that, and kind of look ahead if you want. Most people don't do that. Okay, most people just go, well, I'm on vacation and I'll watch this and I'll catch it, you know, as Mr. Quitter does it. Because sometimes I do things a little different than I did the previous time. Okay, so again, that's another one. What I usually tell people is just subscribe to it. Okay, go there, go to that, go into YouTube app on your phone, type in Coder Science 10. This will come up. Subscribe. That way you get notified each time a new video goes up, which will basically be every day. Okay, questions on that? All right. All right, so Google Classroom, like I say, we'll talk about that more on Wednesday. Okay, so make use of that website and all that good stuff. Okay, you go to YouTube, and like I said, actually, let's do that right now. If you can pull your phones out again, okay, open up the YouTube app, search Coder Science 10, okay, and then subscribe to that because you're going to want to use that a lot. Okay, like I go through there and I look at all the analytics, the watch statistics and that kind of stuff, and yeah, okay, it gets used for sure. All right, because when I look at the demographics of where people are watching it, it's like almost entirely Canada. Okay, it's obviously not big anywhere else except India. There must be like an expatriate camp, somewhere where they're drilling for oil and there's Canadian people watching it. I don't know. Okay. So yeah, definitely subscribe to that and get the notifications when new podcasts come in. Okay. 2.3, each day I'll post the day's activities and a link to the day's podcast, developments, notes, etc. on Google Classroom. Okay, so in the stream is what it's called on Google Classroom. Okay, there'll be a note, here's what we did today. All right, and there'll be a link to the podcast, a link to the bigger version, the PowerPoint version of the notes. Okay, if we did a lab, there'll be a link to the lab report. There'll be your template that you'll fill in and complete for me. There'll be a link to the data if you need it, a link to the podcast, etc. Anything you need would be in there. All right, so you're probably going to use Google Classroom as much or more than you use my website. Okay, and I'll put the join codes up on Wednesday when we start into this. Okay. Okay, so using the above resources, okay, if you miss class, you should always return to class caught up with your classmates. Okay, it's extra effort for me to do that, but I believe that it's worthwhile, so I don't begrudge doing it. Okay, there's getting to be more and more of us that are. Okay, but because of that, I do expect that you are responsible for it. What I do not ever want to hear from anybody is, Mr. Coder, what did I miss? Because my answer will be a lot. And then I'll say, go sit down. All right? So you know where to get the stuff you missed. Go there, get it yourself. Okay? You're 15 years old. Okay? You can be responsible for that kind of thing. Okay, questions on any of that? All right, classroom behavioral norms. Okay, the biggest thing obviously is respect. Okay, not just, and especially for each other within the classroom. All right, this is a place where everyone should feel safe, included, welcome. It's part of our prayer in the morning, okay, that you heard this morning, Mrs. Ostafchuk said, okay, that everyone feels included and welcome. Okay, that's the culture and the spirit of our school. Okay, that bullying crap, that doesn't fly. Okay, it just doesn't fly. All right, so make sure that we are mindful of each other's feelings and space and things like that, okay, so that everyone can have an enjoyable experience. Okay, same goes for me and you. Okay, I will always treat you with respect, or do my very best to do so. Okay, and I expect the same in return. Like, so for example, I'm not going to single you out in front of everybody, okay, each and every day, or something like that, and cause you to require psychiatric treatment or something like that. Okay, that's not going to go on here. Okay. If you hear the words, listen up. Okay, that's how I start class. That's how I want to get your attention. So if you hear me say that, I need your eyes and ears pointed toward me, okay, with your full and undivided attention. Sometimes it's simple. It's like, listen up, we need to get started. Listen up, there's a mistake on the handout I gave you. Listen up, there's a fire over here and we need to leave now. Okay, whatever happens to be, but I want your full and undivided attention. Okay, when I say that, if I have a like perpetual problem getting your attention, then I'll ask you to step outside, okay, where we can talk about attention and respect and things like that. Okay. Okay, 3.3 has to do with work assigned in class. All right, this is high school. High school is different than junior high. And unfortunately, in first semester of grade 10, the reality of that comes crashing down on you. Okay? We do not coddle you like you were coddled in junior high. And you were coddled in junior high. Okay? There is no save my butt at the end of the year assignment worth 25% because you didn't do your work throughout the year. That's crap. That doesn't work in real life. You don't get one of those here. Okay? There are no rewrites. You might want to write that down. There are no rewrites in Science 10, okay, or Bio 20, or Chem, okay, any of the sciences. There's no rewrites, okay, because we believe rewrites are for people who didn't prepare properly the first time, okay, it's as simple as that, okay. Test anxiety, that's a natural consequence of not preparing, Okay, that's what we believe here. Okay, anxiety is healthy in small amounts. It's motivating. Okay, so there aren't any rewrites. But the reason also that we have no rewrites is this. You have an unbelievable supply of resources available to you. You have access to me for help every day of the week. Okay, we have a 25-minute scheduled help that goes on right after period 2 before lunch, where you can go to whichever teacher you want, okay, to get help. And because I have no life, I am in here every day at lunch if you need help, okay? Because sometimes my room becomes a bit of a zoo during scheduled help. Okay, lots of people come in. If you'd like more one-on-one kind of stuff, then come in here at lunch. I'm always in here, and for some reason there's less people over the lunch hour because they don't have to be here. Okay, so there's lots of available help. Okay, and we'll talk more about some of the other things that are going to be available to you as well. Okay, so when I assign work in class, it's got to get done. Okay, if it's a worksheet, I'm not taking it in for marks, but it still needs to get done because it's going to allow you to practice the skills and things like that that you need to be successful. Okay, I don't give you any make work stuff. Okay, I'm not going to say, oh, here's a worksheet and then go on Facebook for 40 minutes. Okay, that's not how I work. Okay, if I give you a worksheet, it's because I need you to practice something. Okay, and while you're working on that worksheet, if you're having trouble, I'm here, and you can ask me for help. Okay, so that's the idea behind that. Okay, if it's a lab report or it's an assignment, then I am going to take it in for marks. Okay, and those ones absolutely have to be completed. Okay, everyone clear on that? Okay. The big deal here, guys, is if you're not doing your work. Okay, and hopefully that's not going to be an issue for anybody, but if I don't get the assignment from you, I'm going to become like that thing in Alien that stuck to the guy's face and wouldn't come off. Okay, I will be in your face, right? And I will be after you for that assignment until I get it. Okay, so it's kind of like a negative reinforcement thing. If you want me to go away, okay, get your work done. Right? Then I don't have to hound you. All right. Yes, you are responsible for your own academic success. Make sure you're preparing for things like quizzes and exams. Okay. Make sure that you're doing your work. The big thing with the assigned work that comes in for marks. Okay. I'll go over that with you if you want. If you get it done ahead of time and you want me to look it over, I'm happy to do that. All right, so if we were to do a lab next week, which we probably will, okay, if we do that lab and I make it due, let's say we do it on Tuesday and I make it due for Friday, if you do the lab report and have it all done for Wednesday, pop in and scheduled helper at lunch and say, Mr. Coder, can you look over my lab? And I'll call it up on my computer because I'll be able to do that because it'll be in Google Classroom, okay? And you'll be right there and we'll go over it together and I'll go, well, your hypothesis is pretty good, but I think if you add something about this particular topic, that might make it like 5 out of 5 instead of 4 out of 5. Looking through and go, well, question number 2 wasn't really asking what you were writing here. It was more asking about this instead. Okay, so maybe go back and make your answer talk more about that. Okay, those kind of things. I'm not going to give you the answers, okay, but I'm going to give you tips and pointers that make the difference between, let's say, 22 out of 30 and 28 or 30 out of 30. All right, so take advantage of that. Okay, again, talk to anybody who took my class before. If they took advantage of that, they probably got really good marks. Okay, does it require a little extra effort on your part? Yeah, you've got to have the stuff done before the night before. All right, if you email me at like 10:45 and go, hey, Mr. Coder, I just got my thing done, can you look it over? No. Okay, come in before, come in class, or in scheduled help. Well, scheduled help or lunch is the time to do that. Okay, and I'm happy to look it over for you. Okay, so certainly take advantage of that. Okay, on exams, and this happens very rarely, but if it did, okay, if you were to fail a test, then I expect that you come in and see me. And by expect, I mean I'll drag you in here by the scruff of your neck. Okay, and you'll sit in here until you and I have gone over all the stuff that you didn't get right. Okay, I want to make sure you know how to do it. All right, like I say, I'm not giving you a rewrite, but I'm going to make sure that you know how to do all of that stuff. Okay, at that point, at my discretion, I may bump your mark a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to bump it from 35 to 80. Okay, I'll bump it to a pass. That's the most I'll do. But if something happened and you did bomb for some reason, okay, there's that little bit of wiggle room, okay? But again, not a rewrite. Okay. 3.4, fairness versus equality. Okay, like I say, I always try to be fair to everybody, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to treat everyone equally, because believe it or not, those two things are not the same. If I was to treat everybody equally, that actually wouldn't be fair. Okay, everyone is different. So I try and treat everything on a case-by-case basis. For example, and this is the example I always use because it was like the funkiest example of this ever. Okay, two people might have the same problem, the assignment not handed in, but the circumstances as to why may be very different. The example I had happened now 8 or 9 years ago, but we had a lab due. Basically, everybody handed it in, and these two kids came up to my desk. Okay, and the first kid, to his credit, was very honest with me. He said, "Well, Mr. Critter, I don't have it done." I'm like, "Well, why not? Like, I gave you a week to do this thing, and it wasn't very big." "Yeah, I left it till last night. Season finale of Survivor was on, and I didn't want to miss it, and I didn't do it." I'm like, well, I appreciate your honesty. It's late, okay? I'm going to dock you marks for it being late, but you know, you can still hand it in. I'll still take it, okay? But understand, it's because it's late. It's not worth as much. And he went and he did it, and he handed it in the next day. The other person looked like they would have to get better to die. They looked awful, okay? And I'm like, okay, what's the matter with you? That was actually my exact words. I wish I hadn't actually said that now, but it's like, well, you know, I was working on my stuff, and then my parents got into this huge fight, and they both stormed out of the house and left me with my 4 brothers and sisters who are all smaller than me, and they were hungry, so I made dinner. It was chicken. I didn't cook it enough. We all got sick and spent the whole night throwing up, and I didn't get my assignment done. I'm like, wow, that really sucks. And then the mean person in me came out and said, you know, if you hadn't left it till the night before, that probably wouldn't have happened. Because I'm obliged to say that, okay? If you leave things till the night before, that's when catastrophe finds you. It's always looking for you, okay? But it likes to wait until there's nothing you can do about something, okay? And that's always the night before. Anyway, you know, I obviously said, you know what, maybe you should go home and get better because you still look like you're going to die, okay? Go home and get better, and then, you know, get that assignment into me as soon as you can, okay? I didn't treat them equally. One guy didn't deserve the extension. The other person, had they managed their time better, wouldn't have been in that situation either, but, okay, I gave them the extension, all right? Now, what I expect or hope is that you have enough respect for me that you'll be like the first guy if you don't have it done and be honest with me, okay? That you won't come up to my desk and give an Oscar-worthy performance complete with tears about the sob story for whatever that you made up, okay, because you didn't get your assignment done. Okay, let's not kid each other, okay? Hopefully you guys won't do that, but I do try to be as fair as possible. Okay, 3.5 is really important, accountability. Okay, high school is the start of real life. I already told you we're not going to coddle you here. Okay, due dates and timelines are part of your reality. Okay, things have to be done on time. So you're required to hand in material on time and be responsible for your actions. I give plenty of time for assignments to be completed. Thus, there are very few excuses I will accept for not having material on time. Okay, in real life, you have to get things done on time. Okay, and the same goes for you here. Okay, the shortest turnaround for an assignment you would have in my class would be 2 school days. That's the shortest turnaround you would have. Most of the time, it's 4. Okay, most of the time. Okay, if it's something like really small and we got almost all of it done in class, then it's probably going to be a 2-day turnaround, right? But okay, you're going to have plenty of time to get things done. Because I understand you guys are busy too. Okay, some of you have part-time jobs, some of you are playing sports. Okay, you got band, you got a concert, you got music lessons, dance lessons, whatever it is. You're busy people. Okay, I understand that, and I want you to learn time management. I don't teach you that by saying, oh yeah, here's this 3-hour assignment due tomorrow. Okay, that's not fair, and thus I won't do it. All right, so you will always get a reasonable amount of time to get things completed. Okay, questions on that? All right. So assessment and evaluation. So this has to do with your marks. Okay. The first and most important thing is that I will not discuss your mark with you in class in front of 29 other people. Okay. It's not right for me to do that. Okay, freedom of information and privacy would say that I can't. Okay, do that. So if you have a question about your grade, please come and see me at an appropriate time. That would maybe be after class, okay, when people are on their way out, at lunchtime, okay, something like that, where it's one-on-one, okay, and we're both not having to worry about saving face in front of 29 other people. All right, because I once had a kid who brought his mark up to me and slammed it down on my desk. He goes, "Kuder, this mark sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, it does. Sit down, shut up." Okay, because what am I supposed to do? There's 28 other people going, "What's he going to do?" I'm not going to do anything. That's your mark, and it does suck because you did a really crappy job. Okay, sit down. Right? So if you want me to be reasonable with me. Come in and see me when we don't have to worry about what everyone else is thinking. Okay? Okay, your marks will be distributed according to the syllabus, so I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, assignments and labs have to be handed in on time. That is the start of class on the due date. Okay? The reason it is the start of class on the due date and not the end of the day is because I don't want you working on it in my class or somebody else's class because you didn't get it done. Okay? Start a class on the due date. After that, it's late. Okay, and with Google Classroom, I don't have to do anything other than set the due time as the start of class. Okay, and it automatically will tag anything that comes in after that as late. Okay, so make sure you've got it in on time, because if you don't, it'll cost you 25%. Okay, here's the reason why. I will give you everything back the next day. Okay, in 16 years of teaching, I have failed to get back an assignment the next day once. Okay? My son was born, and I didn't get the assignments that were handed in that day done. I think I get a break on that one. Okay? All right? Once. All right? So I will get stuff back to you the next day. Okay? That means that if you don't hand it in, and I'm handing it back and we're going over it, it's hardly fair for you to sit there and copy down everything I say and get 100%. Okay? That would certainly not be fair. So it is a 25% penalty for anything that is not in at the start of class on the due date. All right, guys, that also includes if you were not here the day we did it. Okay? The due date is the same whether you were here the day we did it or not, because you can access it. You can watch the podcast of the instructions on how to do it. Okay? There's no reason for you not to be able to get it done. Okay, and then 4.4 we kind of talked about already. Assignments and labs are due at the start of class on the due date. Since everything's on Google Classroom, I don't know why I still have this stuff about putting it in my mailbox or slipping it under my door, because you're not going to slide your laptop under my door. Okay, so yeah, just make sure it comes in that way. Okay, questions on marks? Okay, so the course syllabus, guys, I'm not going to go into all the little terms here. There's 4 units. Okay. There's chemistry, which Alberta Learning calls energy and matter and chemical change. We call it chemistry. Okay. There's a second unit, cycling of matter and living systems. We call that biology. Okay. And then there's energy flow and technological systems. We call that physics. Okay. And then there's this kind of hodgepodge unit at the end called energy flow and global systems. I call it the unit I can do in 5 days if I have to. I don't really have another name for it. It's kind of everything lumped together, and there's really no continuation to anything else in that unit. So, yeah, your 3 big units, okay, are obviously chemistry, biology, and physics, because those are the ones the courses you can choose to take in grade 11. And probably a lot of you are registered for Bio 20 AP second semester already. Okay. So our first unit, chemistry, takes us usually to around Thanksgiving. Okay, usually like first week of October, okay, maybe the last week of September, given that, well, it's 31st of August. It's probably the first week of October, okay, that we'll finish that up, so expect a unit exam probably around that time. I'll always give you 2 weeks notice, okay, of an impending unit exam, so you have lots of time to prepare. Then we'll have bio. Bio usually runs from around Thanksgiving to around Remembrance Day or the week after Remembrance Day, so middle of November. Okay, it usually happens right around the time of report cards and parent-teacher interviews. Okay, usually that's when that one ends. And then physics usually will go till Christmas. okay, from there. Sometimes physics goes even till after. I try to get it done so you don't have to remember all that stuff over Christmas, but it'll usually take us, those are the big three. Okay, the last unit, like I say, I have taught it in 5 days. I don't like to have to do that, but I've taught it in 5 days. Okay, I like to have 10 days for it. All the unit exams are worth the same amount. Okay, I don't make that last one worth less because it's a short unit. It's worth the same as the chemistry unit. It's worth the same as bio. Okay, so they're all weighted the same. Okay. All right. So marks distribution. Your unit exams are 25% of your final mark. Okay, so if you're doing the math, that's about what 4.5% or so per unit exam. Okay. Sorry, not 4.5, 5.5 per. Okay, labs, projects, assignments. Okay, your class work, that stuff you can ask me questions about or get done ahead of time and bring in. 45% of your final mark. In total, 12, maybe 15, depending on how we go through. Okay, how quickly. Sometimes I do a few if we've got a little extra time. Hopefully I don't have to cut any. But yeah, usually around 10 to 15. Yeah. And then there's a few other assignments here and there, projects here and there. So you'll have lots of stuff in your gradebook. Okay, by the time you're at the end of this semester. So you have lots of opportunities to get marks. Okay. Quizzes, 10%. Here's the thing about quizzes, and you might want to write this next to there. You have a quiz every Tuesday and every Thursday, unless told otherwise. Tomorrow, I'm telling you otherwise. You don't have one tomorrow. Okay? But you have a quiz every Tuesday and every Thursday. They're very short. Okay? They typically take between 5 and 10 minutes, right, to do. And better news. I give them to you ahead of time. Okay? I'll put them on Google Classroom the day before. Right? The idea is that you will take 5 or 10 minutes that night and go over it. Okay? Look at what the questions are. Okay? If it's like fill in the blank, look up the answers in your notes. Okay? Come back the next day, get 100% on the quiz. Okay? Maybe it's a couple of chemical reactions and you're being asked to predict products and balance the reaction, something we'll do near the end of the unit. Okay? So you do that. You take 5 or 10 minutes. Okay? You go through that using your periodic table and write them down. Okay? Then you come in here the next morning, it's the same questions, you get 100% on the quiz. Okay? The idea behind that is it's nice to get good marks. Secondly, there's nothing I'll ask on an exam that I didn't ask on a quiz. All right, I'm going to ask you the same kinds of things on quizzes that I'm going to ask you on unit exams. So if you're doing that stuff, okay, you're going over those questions, that's called, what do they call it? Studying, right? Okay, that's what that's called. It doesn't require a whole lot of your time, okay, but it's a good investment of time. All right, because you get kind of the idea of how I word questions, what kinds of things I'm going to ask. Then when a unit exam comes, you can feel confident because you know, Mr. Quader told me these kind of things are going to be on the exam, and I did a bunch of quizzes like that. I know how to do that. Okay? Now, obviously writing an exam and writing a quiz you got the questions for the night before is a little different. Okay? Don't get overconfident. Okay? It is a little different to come in and write a quiz where you got the questions the night before. I will not give you the exam the night before. Okay? A little different. And then your final exam is worth 20%. Okay, so last week or second last week of January, you'll have a 2-hour exam in the gym. Okay, worth 20%. Right, that's down actually. Used to be 25, but they lowered diploma exams to 30, so I figured probably hard to justify making your Science 10 final worth 30. So yeah, it's 20 now. Okay, so your coursework, guys, this is big. If you're not doing your assignments, it's really hard to do well, being as it's almost half of your grade. Okay? You're not going to get by on exams alone. They're only worth 45%. If you got 100% on all your tests and did nothing else, you're really flirting with it. Okay? So make sure you do your coursework. All right, and then the last part is about that I'm photocopying way less. Okay? When I did the calculation on how much paper I used, it was 2 boxes of paper. Okay, that's like yeah, criminal practically. Okay, I don't know how many acres of forest that comes out to, but okay, it was a lot of paper, and I said, you know what, there's just no point in doing that. So make sure you have for tomorrow, okay, at least the chemistry part of the notes package printed. Okay. And everyone remembers where that is, right? My website, Science 10 stuff, it's right there at the bottom, right there, kind of near the top. Okay, it's Science 10 notes package. Make sure you have that. All right. Other things that people usually ask: can I have food and drink in here? Yes, you can. Okay. Please make sure that if you make a mess, you clean it up. So preferably if you have something, you know, with a top on it, okay, not an open cup, right, that would be fine. You know, if you're bringing your breakfast in, that's great, as long as your breakfast isn't a 500-gram bag of Doritos and a 2-liter Coke, okay, because I'll probably give you a lecture on nutrition, okay, if that's the case. But yes, you can have food and drink in here. Obviously, you can have your phone in here. Okay, I have no problem with that as long as you're using it responsibly. But if I find that it's a distraction for you, I will remove the distraction from you. Okay, for that period anyway. So please make sure that that's not the case and that you are using it responsibly. Can you wear your headphones in here at times? Okay, if we're doing some seat work where you're working on a worksheet, or we've just completed a lab and you've got some time to work on the lab report in class, yeah, those are situations where yes, if you want to close yourself off from the world and wear your headphones, okay, by all means go right ahead. Okay, but if I'm talking, I need both ears, okay, free of the phones. Okay, I know a lot of people try that little trick, where they got one in and they're turning so only one ear faces me. Again, I can kind of tell. Okay, yeah. So please make sure that you're, got both ears free if I'm teaching actively. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you. Any guys got any questions? Okay. Like I said, on Wednesday we will start the Google Classroom stuff. We'll get it all set up. We have a class set of Chromebooks, okay, for science that I've already booked out, so we'll have those for the day, and we'll get that all set up. You do need to have, for that day, your username and password for the school network. That should have come with your registration materials, like your timetable and stuff like that. Okay, your username is your school email is your first name, your last name, at isidore.redeemer.ab.ca, same as it probably was last year. Okay, I don't know if the password is the same. It probably is. Okay, but just make sure you double check. Okay, on your registration materials, you must have that, or it'll be really hard for you to get everything set up on Wednesday. Right, so make sure you have that. And a lot of your other teachers are going to tell you the same thing. We use that stuff a lot. Okay, around here. So make sure you've got that ready. So you're aware, and some of you that have used it in the past, so much of the stuff we use is based around Google, and Google is kind of proprietary, which means that if you try and do some of the stuff we do through another browser, like if you have an iPhone and you're trying to do it through Safari, it doesn't always work. Okay, you have to have the Chrome app or the Classroom app or something like that on your phone so that it runs through Google and then runs properly. Okay, I had a lot of people had trouble with that last year. Like, Mr. Codera, I can't submit my assignments. I'm like, well, are you in Chrome? No, I'm in Internet Explorer. Well, that's why. Okay, everything's got to unfortunately be done through Chrome, okay, in order for it to work. So if you don't have that app, okay, make sure it's on your computer, tablet, phone, okay, whatever, so it works. Okay, let's start on the course material here. Supplies. So what do you need for this class? Good idea to have, obviously, some paper, okay, in a binder, because you're going to want to make some notes as we go along. So make sure you've got, a few sheets of loose leaf for this class. Okay, you don't have to have, the laptop or tablet or anything like that, but if you do have one, you want to use it, that's great. Okay, have some pens and pencils. Pencils are good, okay, because a lot of the stuff we do, balancing equations or doing physics stuff, we're having to do calculations, and you want to be able to erase things. Okay, so it's good to have pencils for science. Ruler, not a bad idea. We probably would only use it a handful of times, so don't buy a fancy one, because we do a lot of this stuff electronically now. If you have long hair, keep a hair tie in your science equipment, okay, either in your backpack that you always bring or just put it on the rings of your binder, okay, or something like that, because if we go into the lab, long hair has to be tied back, okay, and it's always good to have a hair tie in your binder if you require it, okay. Also make sure that you have a pair of shoes, oddly enough for science, that covers your feet completely, at least at school somewhere, so that when we do labs, especially chemistry labs, that's really the only ones that would really need it, that your feet are covered. Okay, because if you spill something on the countertop and it spills off and you're standing right next to it, it spills onto your feet. And if you're not wearing proper footwear, you could get a chemical burn on the top of your foot. Okay, so when we do labs, and you'll get advance notice of that as well, okay, make sure you come in with proper footwear that covers your whole foot. You don't have to bring in, like, rubber boots, okay, but make sure you got sneakers at least. Okay.